This used to mean something. And because of the death of the Pac-12, the amalgamation of the teams from the West Coast that joined the Big Ten, the refugees that wound up in the Big 12, what's happened in the SEC and to the ACC, rivalry weekend just is not the same anymore. I mean, when was the last time in humanity Ohio State, Michigan didn't have much bearing and meaning? People go crazy. And I worked in the Midwest. I covered that game in the Horseshoe. I went to Ann Arbor. I mean, it was absolutely phenomenal. It's just not the same. Michigan obviously is not what Michigan was. They've gone from national championship to 6-5 under the cloud of an NCAA investigation. I'll tell you what, Ryan Day does not like those guys up north. If he has a chance to pour it on and pile it up, he will. But it's weird. It's just not the feel this year, Ohio State versus Michigan. Once upon a time, this was big. Texas A&M. It's not anymore. The Aggies jumped ship years ago to went to the Southeastern Conference, and the rivalry was put on the back burner. Now they're playing because obviously they're both in the SEC, and the whole storyline is Quinn Ewers, the Texas quarterback, who's just grown immensely under Steve Sarkisian, and the feeling is he's going to come out early. He's going to go to the NFL draft, and he may position himself maybe to be one of the top 3 picks in the draft. The next one is a rivalry that goes back into the early 1920s. It's kind of an important game out here in Los Angeles, not because USC is playing it. USC is 6-5, but because Notre Dame comes in with great aspirations to be in the playoffs and be a player. Irish come in at 10-1. They got a transfer quarterback in Riley Leonard, and they've got young running backs, but boy, they play big boy defense. And the big boy defense is going to go against SC's young quarterback, Jaden Mayava, who's won 2 games. The Irish could win this game. Irish could punch them in the mouth. And could you imagine in L.A. Lincoln Riley being 6-6 and going to the Poulon Weed Eater Bowl? You talk about losing prestige. And then there's Boise State, and they played a big-time schedule. They're finishing 11-1. As we were coming on, they were punching Oregon State in the mouth. So Boise State is going to be in the playoffs. Boise State may well have a first-round bye in the playoffs because they're going to be ranked inside the top 10. And Boise State's the real deal. And that's amazing to me because this is a group of 5 conference team. And yet they got big-time players. And they played a big-time schedule starting the first weekend of the season back in September when they almost beat Oregon in Eugene. Boise State's really, really good with Heisman Trophy hopeful running back Ashton Gentry. So, John, we had a couple rivalries that used to be important that aren't anymore. You got some people that aren't playing great football anymore. Go ahead.
Well, rivalry weekend used to be gigantic. And I think it diminished when the conferences had their own championship games.
Sure.
And now it's diminished again because of all the realignment. But are the Huskies playing the Ducks, or UCLA played SC last weekend?
And nobody cared.
What about Cal Stanford? Did those guys play?
Yeah, they played last weekend, the big game. Nobody cared.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, I mean, the thing, because of the death of the Pac-12,
yeah,
a lot of the sparkling things that were special are gone. Arizona State plays Arizona this weekend in the Centennial Cup. That used to be huge. BYU used to play Utah at the end of the season. That's not important anymore. And that game was shoved in the middle of the season. The last game of the season used to be the Civil War, Oregon State. Used to be the Apple Cup, Washington State. It's not there anymore because of mergers and the conferences and teams changing and schedules are so different. Just not the buzz that it used to be.
Well, in Columbus and in Ann Arbor, it's still going to be a big game this weekend.
And Ryan Day is going to run up a damn score. Trust me, he's a hothead. He does not forget stuff, especially anything that Harbaugh and Michigan did to Ohio State. But we've seen some great intersectional battles during the season. Ohio State, Oregon, that was really cool. And some of the others. But man, there's a hole in your heart because some of the marquee great games of the past are gone. Now, granted, next week, Army-Navy. And granted, there are great rivalries. Nobody would know this except dummy me who used to live back there. But Lehigh-Lafayette is a big game. That's small college football.
Yeah.
So there are some rivalries, but the marquee ones, it just didn't carry the electricity it used to.
They don't. Just 2 quick questions. When you were at Ohio, who was Ohio's number 1 rival?
You want me to say anything nice about Miami of Ohio?
Okay, so that's who it was.
Oh, that's exactly.
Yeah.
And they're going to play next week in the Mid-American Conference Championship game. It's called the Battle of the Bricks.
The Battle of the Bricks.
Well, but they both have Georgian-style architecture on their campus with brick buildings and all that. And students,
There you go.
Yeah, and the riots, the students would rip up the bricks and throw them at the cops.
How it sounds like Kent State or something going on. But how close together are those two schools?
Well, Miami of Ohio is in Southwest Ohio. It's west of Cincinnati and Dayton.
And then
And
Ohio's
Athens.
southeast, right?
And Athens is in Southeast, right on the border of Appalachia.
Okay, there you go. Okay, but the other question was the championship games, those are next weekend, right?
Yes.
Okay,
For
here we go.
the smaller conferences.
Okay. Oh, the big conferences are like a week after that?
Could be. I'm not sure of the Big Ten or, the Big 12 or the SEC. They may be next week. I have to look at the calendar. You're asking me stuff about dates. I don't know anything about. I don't know what today's date is.
Well, you know everything in the world of sports, but you don't know your calendar.
I don't even know my wedding anniversary, my wife's birthday. I just forgotten all that stuff. But I'll just say one thing about rivalries. Yes, I was the one that did it. I have a bunch of friends live out here who went to Miami of Ohio, and we converse back and forth on social media and phone calls, and we give each other a lot of heat and all that, and we bet, etc. So my fraternity at Ohio U, leading to the Miami of Ohio rivalry game, Battle of the Bricks, hung this huge banner out the fraternity window. And it had the Bobcats logo, and it had it was Miami of Ohio Redskins, an Indian head logo.
Mm-hmm.
And across the front, they had the word Muck Miami. We probably got put on probation.
Back in the good old days.
Back there's got Phi Delta Theta guys drank a lot of beer.
But Miami isn't the what was you say, the Redskins?
It was the Redskins, now the Red Hawks.
Red Hawks. Okay.
Actually, it's historically known as the cradle of coaches. Paul Brown came from there. Woody Hayes came from there. Bo Schembechler came from there. There were a lot of great coaches that were at Miami of Ohio.
This is just a crazy tangent. Redskins, I'm hearing chirping that they're talking about bringing that logo back for the Washington Redskins. Is that real?
Yeah, they're actually talking about bringing the name back. And evidently the new ownership led by Josh Harris has met with Indian Council people about, would you be offended? Most people said, no, we would not be offended, from the different Indian reservations.
Okay.
So Commanders may go away. Washington Redskins, hail to the Redskins, the band and all that might come back.
Interesting. Yeah, that ought to ruffle a few feathers.
Okay, that's all things college football. You upset about rivalries? Feel free to jump on board.